we had a discrepancy with our personnel ordinance in that a second-year police officer would actually make less than a probationary police officer. And as part of that negotiation, we worked with the union. This will correct that difficulty, that inappropriateness, and actually reduce the starting wages for probationary police officers to be in line with the wage schedule that we have set for the patrol.
The union has signed off on this and approved their contract based off this adjustment. The fire department did not want to do this, and so council voted not to move forward with the combined deal. So this brings the police down by themselves. The police union is on board, the administration is on board, and this allows us to bring in cadets at a slightly lower rate and then move them up step by step over a 7-year period. It's the exact same thing we did in the police contract, the ASPE contracts, and the management. Lowered the starting wage and increased the back end wage.
For the years, though, Director, there's been at least a half a dozen policemen that have complained about quality of the people that we have hired and the testing, and to me, this only leads to the problem of the quality of people that we attract. When you take and you cut the salary down to $26,000 a year, I guess I understand what this is all about. But my concern is who we're attracting. I've had at least 6 officers complain about this.
Part of it's market driven, you know, and at a time when the economy is good and there's a lot of jobs out there, you need to up your scale to be able to attract qualified candidates. You know, we're in a very down economy right now, and we feel that this lesser salary will attract qualified, good candidates for our department.
I understand that, but I also remember, and I think you do too, several years ago, Gail Beck took this council to task in an editorial for the quality of personnel that was coming on board based on the problems we had out on the field. And there was a huge outcry to raise it to the 28 at the time because I think, defense of you, Mayor, we were paying 24 at that point in time trying to attract people. And I just think that 26,000 starting out, you're not going to attract the kind of people in this police department that you're looking for. That's my own opinion. No one else has to go along with it. I'm just telling you that. And I remember when we were all spanked for it.
Yes, sir.
Are you accepting the mayor's explanation for the change in the police pay?
Well, I accept his explanation, but I don't support it.
Why don't you support it?
I think based on my years of service here and the problems we've had with the police personnel in the past, I've had several officers talk to me about, at one point in time, raising that salary, and I was a part of raising that salary. And I wouldn't put a gun on my body and go out there into the problem areas that we have right now for $26,000 a year, let alone the $28,000 a year. And I'll also point out that probably every member of his staff makes more than that.
Okay, but how about his explanation that in reality, most of the cadets started about 30?
Not here.
Is that right? Did you hear him tonight?
He said they start between 20. He wants them to start between 26 and 30.
Yeah, but he also said that the reality is that most of them, because of credentials they bring with them, really start at 30.
Some of them do, but some of them don't. If you look, when we exhaust a list, we've long met the credentials at the top of the list. Then you have to deal with the people that are at the bottom of the list. And those people usually don't have military points, usually don't have the other points that can help you get that extra pay. My concern right now is for the citizens of this community. I think especially the newspaper has done a marvelous job in the last month of showing that there's a terrible lack of policemen in this community. We are now down, according to the records I've seen, of 147 police officers. There are more police officers at Cedar Point than there are in Canton.
And you say, and this is my interpretation, that I say that the mayor says that most of them get hired at 30,000, and you say you disagree with those.
I disagree that maybe on the top of the test they would, but when you get down into the lesser, and hopefully this isn't the last hiring that'll be done, because so far I haven't heard how many we're going to hire. I mean, I also know that he's going to be short $3.5 million due to the state cuts next year. And there's got to be some money made up somewhere. But my first priority would be policing and fire. And I wouldn't support the fire cut, and I'm certainly not going to support the police cut. In fact, anybody in council that voted against the fire and the police together will probably be, I would assume, would want to be consistent, and they'll vote against this again.
So what do you think it was that they wanted to have the police on board when they don't need to have the police on board?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll talk to the union later, but it's still not going to sway my opinion because I want to attract the best possible police officers we can attract when we go out and hire. And again, I stress, council doesn't hire and fire. Council only submits the proper legislation to fund.
I want to get some clarification of the police hire situation, the reduction. I just talked to Councilman Smuckler, and tell me if I have your what you said correct. I understood you to say that the reality is that most cadets will be hired at around the $30,000 figure. Do I have that correct or not?
Yeah, that's correct. Because what happens is, when you take the civil service test, if they have certain certification, they get bonus points for that, up to 20%. And so those people that come in and test and get the 20% bonus, they end up typically at the top of the list if they test reasonably well. So what happens is those people, you get an 80%, I get an 80%, but I get 20% extra because I have certification, I go to the top of the list. So what happens is typically the best scoring candidates, because of the bonuses they get, most of those end up having a certification, so you're higher them on the high end of the range you're talking about. Unless somebody scores like 100 without the bonus, so they could end up being high, but they're a great candidate then. So the reality is there's a range from 26 to 30,000. The majority of the people that end up at the top of the list end up getting to 30,000 when they start.
What was the range before the change?
When I started, it was the high end was 26,000, so it was like 22 to 26. They came to us and said, "Hey, if you raise that up, you get better candidates." Okay, fine. It was the economy was still, we were at the 2008 time and things were kind of still running around okay. We put it in there and said, "Okay, we'll bite. We'll try to get new testing for police and fire, and we'll push this through." So we went to council. We raised it to 30 to 35. Okay. Then with the last 2 or 3 years, as the economy crashed, virtually every position in the city, right now, except for the fireman's contract, every position in the city, we have lowered the starting wages. Because if you think about it, every time the union's got a raise, they increase the starting wage of people who haven't started yet. So people before they even got hired got a raise. And what my point is hey, if this is a $30,000 job to start, why have we bumped it up to 32, 34, 36 over the years when that person hasn't started? Let them start, and then we'll give them the raises after they go, not before they go. And so, as we're readjusting all the pay structures, we have lowered the starting wages for all management positions. We've lowered the starting wages for the non-union civil service. We've lowered them for all the ASME positions. We've lowered them for the police. Okay, but in the police structure, the first-year cadet is separate from the union contract. And so by restructuring that whole thing, we agreed upon 30,000 for the cadet and then 34 for the first-year guy, second-year guy, etc. Well, we brought both those ordinances down because you couldn't do it on one ordinance. The first ordinance was for the union contract. The second ordinance was for this cadet change. Well, because the cadets of police and fire have always been at the same, they're always the same. Excuse me. The firemen came in and said, "Wait a second, we're not happy about that. We don't want to do that." And so half the council said yes, half said no. In fact, the vote at the time was a split, 6-6, and that was the first time that Alan Truman actually got a vote. Okay, well, it just happened to be the same day that we're out here talking about Senate Bill 5 and not wanting to put the burden on the middle class. And so he says, "Yeah, after I just talked about trying to support middle class, I don't think I can do this." Well, so then we separated it so that we're dealing with police separately from fire. The police, what they did is they've agreed to take a lower starting wage, but increase their high end on the back end of their scale.